Ladies, gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're back with another episode of Light Camera Discussion Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Collective and Mr. Todd. Guys, how are we doing today?
All good, mate. You?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. Todd, you all right?
Yeah, excited for this.
Good.
Looking forward to it.
It sounds like you're excited, yeah, definitely. Today we're going to be doing, this is the first part of a two-part episode on Mr. Alex Garland. We'll be talking about all of his films and also one that technically isn't his, but we'll be discussing Dredd, Ex Machina, Annihilation, Men, and Civil War. But firstly, Collie, would you like to give us a quick insight into Mr. Alex Garland?
Yeah, absolutely. This is half Wikipedia and half me, so we're working on it. Alex Garland is an English author, screenwriter, and director. He first rose to prominence with his novel The Beach, which was subsequently adapted into a Danny Boyle-directed Leonardo DiCaprio starring film. He then received praise for writing the Danny Boyle films 28 Days Later and Sunshine. He also wrote the script for Dredd, an adaptation of the Judge Dredd comic book series. Carl Urban, who played Judge Dredd, stated that Garland deserved director credit as well as writer, so this is why we're covering it today. Garland then made his official directorial debut when he wrote and directed the sci-fi thriller Ex Machina, his second film Annihilation, an adaptation of the 2014 novel of the same name, and then this was followed by the horror thriller Men and the dystopian near-future Civil War.
Perfect. So yeah, you're absolutely right in Carl Urban saying that he's basically the director for Dredd as well. I think that kind of showed in the marketing as well, where I think the actual official director didn't really do too much, but yeah, that's why we're going to talk about Dredd today. So let's get straight into it. Let's go right into the meat and bones, and let's start with Dredd. So Dredd, in a violent futuristic city where the police have the authority to act as judge, jury, and executioner, a cop teams a trainee to take down a gang that does the reality-altering drug slow-mo. So, Collie, first thoughts on Dredd?
Yeah, so I seen it when it originally came out way back when in 3D in the cinema, and it was one of the first films that I remember being like very effectual with the 3D, especially like the action sequences using the slow-mo and that. I thought it was great. I had, prior to that, seen the Stallone 95 Dredd film, which is very different to this one, mainly because he takes off his helmet in Stallone's one because Stallone demanded it, essentially. But yeah, for this, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Nothing too, thought-provoking or anything like that. And it was just like, balls to the wall action, over the top kind of stuff. So yeah, I've liked this since I first seen it, and it's one of those ones that I'll go back to every so often if I just want, a silly action flick to get on the screen.
Perfect. Todd?
Yeah, so it's a relatively new one for me. I think I only watched it for the first time last year, and it was prior to this, and it was only because I wasn't a massive fan of Carl Urban. I don't know what the guy did. I feel it was the boys that brought me round. Like, because when he was cast as Billy Butcher, I was a little bit sort of unsure. Obviously, he sold me on it straight away. And then once I'd watched that, I went back and watched this, and there was something else I went back to. Yeah, brilliant. And I think it got a lot of unfair comparisons to The Raid because of the setup of, like, from the bottom to the top, like fighting all the way through this gang. And I don't think it's a comparison that I'd make necessarily, but I just thought it's worth addressing because I think for people who haven't watched it, you go in and people are like, well, it's not The Raid. Well, no, it's not. It's absolutely not The Raid. It's a totally different film. Yeah, I thought it was like you say, balls to the wall, like action, a lot of fun. Massey?
Perfect. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Colin, when you say about like a sort of silly sort of action film. It's just that. It's kind of what it says in the tin sort of thing. I remember seeing it when it first came out on DVD. I got it, and I just had a great time watching it. And having never watched it since then, so I think maybe like 2013, a good 10 years ago. Going back and revisiting it, it's exactly as I remember. Just like a stupid film, or not stupid, but like, you shut your brain off. You just enjoy the kind of the violence, the action sequences, some of the sort of like cinematography as well was really interesting. I mean, obviously we'll get into that in more detail, but I thought it was a really good film, a really fun film that I thoroughly enjoyed. Talking about Carl Urban, then obviously he is the main sort of like the front and center of this film. What did you like about his performance, Collie?
So it's kind of, for me, I know Todd said it gets compared to The Raid, but I compare it to RoboCop a little bit, just because of the way that he portrays the character and how the character is from the comic books as well. It's just like, he's so, by the book for the most part. You see this through his conversations with Cassandra throughout it. He's just like, rookie this, rookie that. Like, what do you think about this, rookie? So their dynamic's really, really good. But yeah, for Carl Urban, it's just some of his lines that he delivers, like, to skip all the way to the end when he's just asking Mama, like, oh, how long or how far do you think this receiver will go or whatever, and then he just chucks her off after making her take the slow-mo. Just some of the delivery and the deadpan of that just makes me laugh, like, not at it, but like with it. I think it's deliberately supposed to be, quite stoic but funny at the same time. So no, I think he's great, and the fact that all you see of his face is that, and he can convey as much emotion as he conveys, which isn't very much. But yeah, I just think Carl Urban's great. I've always liked him from as Aemir from Lord of the Rings all the way through to this, all the way through to The Boys. So he's not been in too much that I've watched or whatever. Like, for example, he was in the mid 2000s Doom movie, which is not very good. But I remember him from that and stuff. But yeah, in the roles that he's in, like better films, I'll say, or TV series when it comes to The Boys, I think he always does a great job. Even as what's his name in Ragnarok? He's really funny as the gatekeeper in Ragnarok that replaces Idris Elba. I think his comic timing and that's good. So yeah, he's an actor I really like, and I wouldn't say he's like born to play Dredd, which I've seen when I was seeing reviews and stuff. Like, folk were like, "Oh, Carl Urban's born to be Dredd," which I think sells him a little bit short in his how good he is as an actor. But yeah, he came in and did a perfect job for who Dredd is and who he needed to be.
Perfect. Todd?
Yeah, there's not a lot more to say. I think it was Star Trek, because I don't like Star Trek. I'm not a big Trekkie, I suppose, but I like the new films. It was the J.J. Abrams ones, and that's where he did me head in. I really was just like, I don't want anything to do with it.
I thought he was class.
And again, that might be a case of like me coming fresh into the franchise or whatever and the character, but it just, yeah, he did me head in. And then, like I say, turned it around for The Boys. He hasn't got a lot to do but what he does well. Like, I think that's the main thing, is that like he hasn't got a lot of range to play with because he is playing this stoic sort of, straightforward judge. But like you say, I think the sort of backwards and forwards, the chemistry between him and Cassandra, like that's really good. Yeah, so the delivery of some of the lines, but I think like he's an action star, and I think that's where he's like his wheelhouse is. Really good. Like I said, this is one that I've only watched a couple of times, but yeah, Massey.
Yeah, I mean, the scowl for me does it. Like, it's just like, it's a perfect scowl that he has the whole time, and I just say, because that's the only part of his face that's shown, like, it just works. It just works absolutely like perfectly, and I think he's phenomenal. I don't really know much other stuff that I've watched and thought, oh yeah, there's Carl Urban. But this is one of them where like I obviously do and thoroughly enjoy his performance. With as little as he has to do, he does the most with it. So yeah, thoroughly enjoy his performance. He's obviously
Sorry.
No.
I was just gonna say he's been cast as Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat 2.
Oh.
So I'm really looking forward to that, because obviously he can kind of bring in the Billy the Butcher kind of shit talking and stuff like that as well. So I'm really excited to see that.
I think I actually touched on him as well with Billy the Butcher. Like, obviously his accent as Billy the Butcher isn't great. Like, it's all over the place, but like his attitude and stuff just carries it, and you don't care about the accent. So I think that'll be interesting then, seeing him in Mortal Kombat movie. That'll be good. Obviously his main sort of antagonist is played by Lena Headey, Mama. She's like the kind of like the drug overlord in the sort of high rise that he's fighting through. Any thoughts on her performance at all, Todd?
I just thought it was cool to see her in it, to be honest. Like, she was really good. Sort of I don't know what the phrase is. Difficult to look at because of like the scars and the prosthetics and stuff. But she pulled off that. She's not over the top sinister, but she manages to pull that villain off really well. I I believed that she had the command, if that makes sense. I just thought it's mad seeing her in the role. Because was this pre Game of Thrones or during?
It was during it.
Yeah.
During it. So like, I suppose that's where I knew her from initially, and it was just mad to see her sort of in this role at that time. But yeah, I thought she did a good job. Like, didn't really stand out. I wouldn't put her up there as like one of the best villains ever or whatever. But yeah, she was commanding enough and creepy enough. Yeah, worked really well for me.
Coley?
Yeah, echoing Todd's thing. Like, she didn't do too much, but what she did was perfectly fine. Like, she was very, dominating over her wee gang and stuff like that. And you can tell from just the way that she portrays her why she rose to prominence over the other gangs that she like overtook and stuff. And then she's got these sway over the the judges that betray the judge code or whatever. So she can back it up. But yeah, like just coming back to that interaction on the top of the tower at the end, it's just so funny. And yeah, I'd seen her in Game of Thrones and then 300 in that, but again, bit part roles, and yeah, she's not going to be craziest, scariest villain ever, but she does exactly what she needs to. She provides kind of a good foil to Dredd. And yeah, I enjoyed her performance here.
Good stuff. Yeah, exactly the same. I thought it was a excuse me. It was a really good performance. In that it was quite understated, but also again, it's almost like that's what the whole movie needed, was understated performances that kind of was carried by the sort of like the action scenes and stuff as well. That's kind of the way that I sort of took the movie. There was also another big player in the whole film. That was the rookie played by Olivia Thirlby. I must admit, I've not seen her, or don't think I've seen her in anything else. But how do you think she did in this film as kind of like Dredd's sort of like sidekick, Collie?
Yeah, I think she was good. She kind of provided that like lightness to the darkness of Dredd, and obviously with her telepathic powers, like Dredd from the offset wasn't really happy to be working with her, so he was kind of harsh on her. But then by the end, the final sequence, it's like, did she pass or fail? And he's like, oh, she passed. So the kind of dynamic of their relationship changing throughout it was really good. Her obviously saving him when the other judge, was away to kill him, and that I thought was a big turning point in the relationship. But yeah, I think he calls her by her name like once or twice throughout the whole film, and the rest of it's like rookie. Like the quote that I took down from him was, I'm wondering when you'd remember you left your helmet behind. And she says, oh, my helmet can interfere with my psychic abilities. And Dredd just goes, think a bullet might interfere with them more. And just, if that doesn't sum up their relationship with the back and forth and his kind of deadpan towards her, I don't know what will. But yeah, I thought she was great. I remembered her from Juno. She was in Juno way back when. But apart from that, I've not seen her in much. But I think she was good. Kind of, I don't know what other actors around the time. There was probably quite a few that did try and get the role, but for her to win over them, I think I was perfectly happy with that. I thought she was a good little bit of, not comic relief, but just lightness in the film, I would say.
Absolutely. Todd?
Yeah, I think for Dredd, for Karl Urban's Dredd to work, you need some personality alongside him. And that's not to say that like Karl Urban did a bad job. What I mean is like, because he has literally half a face and has 3 facial expressions through the whole film, like you need somebody to bring that lightness is the word, but just that you can actually see expressing, and that you can kind of see that how people react to this strange thing that is Judge Dredd. I thought the scenes where she's battling with the guy that they kind of took hostage as the witness, in her sort of visions or whatever you want to call them, I thought that was brilliant, because that was a real sort of the transformation from her going from the rookie to an actual judge. I thought that was sort of the making of it, and that worked. That was class, because it was uncomfortable. It was weird to see this guy like manipulating her and stuff, and then her slowly but surely sort of bring it back around on him. I thought she did a class job.
Absolutely.
Massive.
Yeah, I mean, that manipulation scene was quite uncomfortable watching, when like he was like basically forcing her to like do acts and stuff in in their minds and stuff, and then she was able to turn the tables and stuff. I thought that was really well done. And yeah, I completely agree. I think, Cole, I think you're right when you say about the lightness that she brought to it was really good. And I thought the telepathic stuff was an interesting change of pace as well, where again it could have easily just been bang bang shooty guns, but we had this like sort of like supernatural sort of like part to it as well, which I thought was really interesting. So talking about bang bang shooty guns, obviously the action scenes were like the main parts of this. This is one of the parts I've also been speaking to you guys throughout the week and stuff, and said that it was like something that I picked up that I don't know if you guys picked up as well, but I'm so excited to talk about this, right? So in the part where where Dredd is across the way from like Mama and her folk, I think they're shooting the big minigun things, and he switches to incendiary bullets. And he fires it across, right? Did you guys pick this up as well? There's a fart noise.
No, I didn't pick this up.
There is 100% a fart noise. I stopped how I was watching it. I went to YouTube to double check, and there is 100% a fart noise. I even wrote down the timestamp, 103:09.
I'll have to look this up. Are you sure it just wasn't you?
100% there's a fart noise. I'll even make this into a short, and I'll pop the scene in there as well. But like, as soon as I heard it, I was like, nah, no way. And I was like, was that me? Did I just let one go? I don't know or what. And then so that's why I literally went to YouTube, looked at the scene, and there is 100% fart noise. It's obviously like in the mix somewhere. But yeah, it's ridiculous.
Oh, so it's not attached to like a gun, or like it's not like a gun firing. Like it's just somebody farting on set essentially. It's really clear.
It's when he shoots the incendiary. So like the noise the incendiary bullet makes when he shoots out the gun, there is like a.
It's a fart noise.
Honestly, like I couldn't believe that I caught it. But yes, I'll put it in a wee video and.
Can I just say, sorry, I think it's been 2 or 3 times I've seen you say it. Like, I really hope that you have seen it, but there's a part of it, I can't wait to talk about this bit of trivia. For it to be a fart noise is fantastic.
Are you surprised?
Thank you.
Are you surprised?
Not in any way, shape or form. And that's probably why I'm so happy about it.
Oh, honestly,
it's type.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. It really is. So yes, if you're obviously listening to us, go and have a quick look at this video, or even I think I even just put in YouTube the incendiary Dredd scene, and there's the fart noise in there. So go listen to it. But other than the fart noises, the action scenes were obviously the kind of like the main sort of thing in this movie. Certainly as well, the use of the slow-mo. Again, Collie, you've seen this. You said you saw this in 3D when it came out in the cinema. What was that like? Obviously, I mean, cast your mind back all those years. What was it like seeing that sort of thing?
It was good. It was good because it wasn't the kind of gimmicky 3D of like stuff coming out the screen and that. I know the Hobbit films are quite maligned, but they use 3D in a similar way that it's the depth of the screen that you get from that. So, like the minigun scene for example, it was giving you depth to the skyscraper. Like there's that shot from below, and there's like, is it the rocket that goes across and it splits and stuff like that? Like that, the depth that you could get from up the skyscraper, from what I remember. I remember, sorry, being like blown away by that. It just adds that little bit extra to it. And this was kind of when they were at the forefront of pushing 3D and that. So like, it was a good example of it, but 3D didn't stick around for too much longer. A couple of years after this, I think, before they started ditching it. But at the time, it was good. It was a good use of it, and an effectual kind of choice. You know, it wasn't very gimmicky or anything. It added to the action.
Good stuff. Todd, thoughts on the use of, or what you could see from the use of the sort of depth and potentially the slow-mo stuff as well?
Yeah, I don't even think it was particularly like slow-mo, but you know, when we're talking about the Gatling gun, the minigun type thing, I just thought like the scale of that in terms of what it did for like Mama's character and stuff, and that it just, you had all these people with her. But I just thought that, like I say, the scale of that shot was amazing. I thought that worked really well. And it's weird because obviously, I'm not getting too deep about the film or whatever, with it being just like you say, just a daft action film. But that slow-mo and how that works with your head when you see them falling, like, and obviously it puts it in slow motion. So you're like then putting yourself in that position of how long does that actually feel? I thought that was really effective as well. And just on the sort of side of things, the fact that again they didn't shy away from any sort of gore. It wasn't like, I know it wasn't like over the top, but you know when they're like uncovering the bodies at the bottom end, and like that was graphic. Like I just thought it was really well done. But I think it lends itself to the action as well, because I'm not like a big Dredd fan. Like I've never really read the comics at all, and I've seen the Stallone film years ago. I you know, it was one of those things, I think around Spawn and all that sort of time that I watched it. But yeah, I thought it lent itself to the film really well, in terms of like how Dredd isn't this like sort of wall running, you know, hiding behind things, blasting. Like he has to be sort of slow and like RoboCop, perfect example. So yeah, I thought it lent itself really well to it. Massey, I don't know if you've got anything.
Yeah, I think the use of slow-mo was so interesting to me, because like, you know, you have Zack Snyder these days who like, or not even just these days, uses slow-mo for everything. Like in Rebel Moon, where there's like slow motion farming like compilations and stuff like that. Like it's just used obviously as like a sort of like a gimmick. But the use of slow-mo here, it actually made sense as to what it was. There was a reason behind it. It wasn't just used for the sake of using it. It obviously it was the drug that was like the main sort of like the main sort of currency essentially in this tower block, and they also used it for, as I said, the sort of like torture and stuff like that. So it made sense, and I really appreciated that. I thought that was a really good, interesting way to use slow motion. Because it could have just been slow motion of people walking upstairs if it was Zack Snyder doing it or something like that. So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting way to use the slow mo. In terms of the action, kind of obviously touched on that stuff there. Was there any other bits that sort of like jumped out to you guys for during the film in terms of like action wise? Collie, thoughts?
The fight between Dredd and the judges, I thought was really, really good. But one shot or one action sequence that made me like laugh in a good way is when he shoots that guy in the mouth with the incendiary rocket and his head all blows up and stuff. I thought that was class. It was just like there's this tense standoff and he's got the lassie like hostage and Dredd's just like bye, just pops him in the head. I thought it was class. Like there's a good wee video on IMDb. It was when I watched it was. Like they showed you how the internals of that gun works, because there's like a big mag on the front of it, and it depends on what round that he asks for that gets like fed up into the chamber and fired. I thought it was pretty cool how they made that gun like mechanically work, I guess. I thought it was pretty cool how his gun listens to him. So the use of that. But yeah, like the action sequence then when the other judge shoots him through the wall, when he could see him and then he shoots, is it through the shoulder he shoots him? I think it is, yeah. I thought that was cool. Like when they all turn up, you're like, right, they're going to come and be back up to Dredd and stuff. And then when obviously they betray him because the guy's like, oh, I've been in the Force for 20 years. I can't be asked, pretty much. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good like plot twist. So yeah, they're dynamic because obviously they're both, or well, all of the judges are like highly trained, highly skilled guys. So them having like a standoff kind of fight, I thought was pretty sick. Yeah, the guy getting popped in the mouth was a laugh.
Todd? You're on mute.
You're muted, mate.
Apologies. Where they're in the... I know. Computing teacher. Clueless. Where they're hiding in the lift. And like they're like, you know, you've got 10 seconds to comply. You've got 5 seconds. And they throw the flashbang. I thought that... Like, it was just... I was expecting this sort of massive build-up of like... Do you know what I mean? Multiple guns and like... All like literally throw the flashbang, go out, bop, 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 bop. And I just thought it was like... And then, because then obviously she's got to make that decision, hasn't she? Whether she kills the guy there and then or not. And I thought, yeah, really cool. Getting popped in the mouth was cool, and the big machine gun, the big minigun. Like I said, I just think it kind of like it used the setting well, used the gang well. It was just really cool to see.
Good stuff. Perfect. Yeah, I can't really talk more about the sort of like action things that you've all touched on those. Was there anything else you guys want to talk about in terms of maybe more Alex Garland and his sort of writing, directing side of it?
Well, yeah, that's the kind of the whole thing that people might query about this is like why we're covering this when it wasn't an Alex Garland thing, and essentially him and Pete Travis, who's like the director of this, at some point in the production of this, Travis was like taken off of creative control essentially, and Garland had been working alongside him anyway during the writing process, and then there was discussions about whether he could seek a co-director kind of thing, but there's all that guild rules and all that kind of jazz about how much involved. So I think there was like a statement put out by the pair of them at a point where it was like, oh, we're doing it in an orthodox way, where Travis will still get it, but Garland's not going to seek a co-director thing. But then like years after the fact, 5-6 years after the fact, Carl Urban was interviewed, he was just like, yeah, Alex Garland pretty much like carried that film, so that's the reason we've chose to discuss it. Plus it's a cool film, so yeah.
It was definitely worth another
so sorry, just like on that point, like with it being so murky as to who did what, I think like writing wise we can say that it's a good script. Like there's nothing too flashy about the script, don't get me wrong, but the story's really good, the story's solid. Like I thought it was a well-rounded film in that regard. When it comes to like directive flair and that, I guess we can't comment too much on it, but yeah,
give him his flowers and move on pretty much. Okay, so in terms of ratings on Letterboxd, as you guys know, we go through what we rated it on Letterboxd. If you want to follow us on Letterboxd, I think just same usernames, isn't it? Collective Unit, Mass Entity, and Todorov? Or yeah,
28. Todorov 28.
Todorov 28. So well, Todd, what did you go on Letterboxd?
I went 4 stars.
Perfect. Collie?
4.5 for me.
Fair enough. I went 4 stars as well. Okay, good stuff. Let us move on to the next film, which is Ex Machina. So a young programmer is selected to participate in a groundbreaking experiment in synthetic intelligence by evaluating the human qualities of a highly advanced humanoid AI. Collie, first thoughts on Ex Machina?
I love this film. I think it's a very interesting film, especially years after the fact, years after it came out. It's probably even more prevalent now as AI is kind of become ingrained in more of our technological society, I guess you could say. The three lead performances are stellar. The writing's, very tight script. There's a lot of stuff to analyze in terms of like the meanings behind the choice of the Pollock painting and all that kind of jazz, which we'll get into. But yeah, I think this film's class.
Todd?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I mean, I don't think I've seen a film like it since, and I certainly hadn't seen one like it when I first watched it. Just because, in the best possible way, nothing happens in terms of like action. Do you know what I mean? There's no set pieces. There's nothing grand happening. It's all down to the story, the performances, and the script, and every single one of them, like spoilers ahead for our Letterboxd ratings or whatever, but every single one of them is done perfectly. Even the setting, like of that sort of secluded house cabin thing, is just perfect. It was phenomenal. Massey, sorry.
Yeah, I loved it. I think I watched this again when it first sort of came out. I'm sure I watched it on well, not when it first came out, but on DVD when it came out then. Enjoyed it then and thoroughly enjoyed it now. I think I kind of understood it a bit more than when I was like a young whippersnapper. I'll say young, 10 years ago.
I mean, like
I was an immature whippersnapper. But yes, I thoroughly enjoyable film. As you both touched on there, the 3 lead performances are just like outstanding. Probably some of their best work. So yeah, it's a truly wonderful film. I mean, let's just get into the 3D performances. It's obviously they're the anchors of the film, really. College, want to kind of get started on the acting side of things?
Yeah, sure. I guess we'll go with like the main character. I guess I would say is Caleb, so Donald Gleason. From the first like meeting of him, when you're seeing through his PC screen and he's getting congratulated, to then getting flown out to to the estate. You can tell that he's excited but nervous, a bit naive. When he asks the pilot, is it how much longer it's going to be, or how long till we'll get there, or whatever, and he's like, oh, we've been flying over his estate for 2 hours already. I thought that was just a fun little tidbit. But yeah, then when you get into his interactions with Nathan, and then furthermore Ava, super just intense performances by all three of them. But Caleb's kind of like, you're seeing, like, you're living the film through Caleb's eyes as the protagonist. So his interactions with Ava, that's what you're getting to see for the first time, as well as he's experiencing them. All this stuff with Nathan, and then there's kind of, the twist a little bit through when he starts to maybe question Nathan's kind of intentions with Ava. He starts seeing the footage of what he does with the other AI and stuff like that. I think it's interesting that he kind of goes from naive to kind of wary of what's happening in a good space of time. I think it's well paced, because this does take over, like, the film is over a period of X amount of days or weeks or whatever. You don't really get told, but I feel it's a natural kind of development of the character from A to B, which we will talk about in some of the other films that he does. But I think it was a very natural questioning of everything, because that's exactly what I was going through, like, watching it as an audience member. I thought so. To have him as kind of the eye into the story, I thought was class. And Donald Gleason's just a great actor. I think he hits all the right notes when he needs to, in terms of, like, intensity, and also he's very good at, like, keeping the cards close to his chest with Nathan when he needs to as well. So I thought he was stellar.
Todd?
Yeah, so I feel like this was my sort of introduction to him. Just looking through, maybe About Time. No. I wouldn't have seen About Time till later. Yeah, this was my introduction to him, so it kind of blew me away. Number one, that he was a Gleason. Like, I thought that was fascinating. But yeah, he's just got that sort of innocence about him, and I like that, especially because of how harshly it contrasts to the other two. And he plays that so well. He just plays that sort of wanting to create, wanting to be better. Yeah, he's fine. I don't think I can really add much on what Collie said. I think as well, between him and Oscar Isaac, he's desperate to kind of impress him, and you can see that throughout the thing. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. I think he's really good in, as you say, Collie, the way that, like, his character sort of evolved over time. I think it was perfectly paced in that. It wasn't a quick sort of, like, change from the kind of more naive person we see coming into the film to then what he obviously sort of, like, as his relationship grows with Ava, and kind of decays a bit with Nathan as well. Yeah, I thought his performance was really good, really subtle as well. It wasn't over the top, which I thought was it could have easily been a story about robots and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it was good to see him. I thought he was really strong. Obviously, speaking about the Donald Gleason performance, there was obviously Oscar Isaac as Nathan across from him. I don't remember seeing Oscar Isaac in much before this, to be honest. I just remember his bald head and cool beard, and that's what I'm kind of styling myself on. And his dance as well. That's kind of all I remember from the first time when I watched this. But it's really interesting seeing the performance that he puts in as well, as this kind of, like, very manipulative sort of person, but sort of, like, from the start he's being manipulative, but maybe we don't quite catch on to that until sort of later on in the film. Thoughts on his performance, Collie, as Nathan?
I think he's fascinating. The kind of the style of him, I read in a bit of trivia, was that it was kind of modelled on a bit of Kubrick with a beard and stuff. That's what he based the beard on. Is kind of this, not flawed genius, but just enigmatic genius kind of vibe. But yeah, he's definitely got that God complex about him, because there's that conversation that he has with Caleb, that Caleb says, I can't remember word for word what he says, but something like, he's like, oh yeah, you called me a god, because when he reflects back on that conversation, and Caleb's like, I didn't really. He's like, yeah, you did. Like, just him looking for, like, kind of, not validation, because I don't think he needs it, but him just looking for Caleb to worship him as this god, I think is really fascinating. And yeah, he's obviously like a super smart dude, and it's kind of the dynamic throughout the film is who's actually playing Caleb. Is it Ava because of Nathan, or is it Ava independently and Nathan's still trying to control it a little bit? And then obviously by the end, which we'll get to, it's an experiment gone awry. It's kind of Frankenstein's monster kind of deal. And that realization during the scene with the two AI where he gets stabbed, and just that look on his face when he gets stabbed in the back is just like pure horror. Is like, oh my god, what have I done? Because I think it's half like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, but then it's half like, oh fuck, like this just went too far. What could this mean, kind of thing. And I'm sure, like, obviously, he doesn't really convey it in the performance per se, but even just thinking like unilaterally about how Nathan feels about that, I bet he's actually fascinated by it as well. He's kind of like sort of probably happy in a way that he's generated this AI that's so, you know, we'll get into the is she conscious or are they conscious conversation probably once we've covered the acting performances, but it's just this realization of, oh my god, I'm actually a genius, like creating something that's done this. So yeah, I think he's great, and yeah, the dance scene is obviously iconic. I know that's one of Todd's favorites, so can I leave him to talk more about that? But the when he talks about tearing up her picture, he's like, I'm going to tear up this fucking dance floor. Just, it's proper funny. It's just, whether that, like, I don't know if that was ad-libbed or if that was part of the script, but I'm sure between him and Garland developing Nathan as a character, they wanted him to have these kind of iconic, I'll probably say, lines, just these lines that make the audience like laugh and also get a bit horrified when it's the whole God complex stuff that I was touching on. But yeah, Oscar Isaac's brilliant. He's so fluid in all of his roles, whether he's in Dune 2 or he was actually filming this at the same time, I believe, as Force Awakens. Like, they were on the same kind of studio or whatever you could call it. So he was using the same trailer for both and recording scenes for both the same days and stuff, which I thought was pretty cool, how you can go from Poe to Nathan and that. So yeah, no, I'd actually tell a lie. This isn't about this film. This is Annihilation. I'm reading the wrong bit of trivia. Sorry. It was Annihilation he was filming at the same time. My bad, because I was like, wait, he's bald. He can't have been Poe. So yeah, it's Annihilation. I'm getting ahead of myself because I forget that he's in two of the films. So my bad.
So
forget it all. I said a load of nonsense.
Delete.
Edit.
Todd.
Yeah, like the dance. The dance is the most impressive bit about it, and I don't know if it's because this is the first. This was my introduction to him, but like, he was in Sucker Punch, and I did see that before this, but I couldn't tell you what he was in Sucker. It's an objectively bad film. I'm fully aware. I still enjoy it.
Was there something else in Sucker Punch that had your attention? Maybe. Is that what you're saying?
No, Massey, because I'm not a 14-year-old boy. I genuinely.
This as well. Let's just cut like the last 5 minutes out of this podcast.
I genuinely like it. But yeah. So it was the sort of introduction to him, and he's got that front man about him. Like, he's got that sort of that charisma, and even if he's a dick, you're still sort of like, yeah, but it'd be good to go for a beer with him, wouldn't it? Like, you want to spend that time with him. That I'm going to tear up the fucking dance floor. Like, it makes me laugh, but I feel horrible for laughing, like, at the same time. And I think that's what he does. He has such charisma. I mean, he's a handsome bastard, but he's not like, he's dressed in these clothes that just sort of like hang off him, shaved head, like the beard that's like, it's not kept. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he's not looking after himself, essentially. And you're still looking at him going, you son of a bitch, you cool fucker. Like, he's just class.
It's getting creepy now, isn't it?
No, it's not massive. It's not, well, why did you watch that film? No, I love him. And I think where you talk about character development with Donald Gleeson, like, Nathan, I don't think has that development. I think it's just a case of he ends up sort of showing his true colours as it goes on, to see whether or not Donald Gleeson's character can kind of be trusted, and then he feels like he can trust him, so he opens up a little bit more. I think some of the stuff like base and her on porn profile, and like, and then he's like, well, that's what Google's for. Like, if we don't use Google for that, what are we going to use it for? Type thing. It's horrible. Like, he's such a sleaze. But again, I want to watch him. I want to know what he's doing in those times where Ava and Caleb are having those conversations. I want to know what he's doing. I want to know, like, is he kicking off? Is he sort of like panicking and all that kind of thing? Yeah, enigmatic, I think, was the phrase that you used, and I think that's a really good way to use it. But again, I'd watch Oscar Isaac in anything. I think he's a draw, and he's come out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Like the video of him. What was Oscar Isaac doing in the 90s? And he was fronting like a ska punk band.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was just like, and I think his rise was from nowhere, and now he's sort of one of the most bankable stars in the world. And this was where he kind of carved that out. Plays a bastard really well, but again, you're looking at him going, is he a bastard, or does he just love what he does? And I'm not sympathizing with him. I'm just like, you immediately are drawn to him. Yeah, Massey, sorry.
Well, he definitely loves what he does. I remember there was a conversation he has about having sensors near the openings when talking about creating the robots. So that really that was kind of disgusting. Hearing those words come out of his mouth. But yeah, he's one of those actors that, like, you just can't not watch. Like, he's so charismatic. I think you're absolutely right. He's one of these people that, like, is so bankable, and I think could be a leading man in pretty much anything. But it's hard to kind of add on much more on what you guys are talking about, because it was such a great performance. Moving on to the sort of like the final of the three sort of main actors, we have Alicia Vikander playing the AI as Ava. Just quickly touching on obviously before we go into her performance, and I'm sure you guys will kind of have something to say as well. But I thought the VFX for her were, like, outstanding. Like, it was so well used, so subtle. It fit the sort of the rest of the scene absolutely perfectly well as well. It reminded me of The Creator, how they had that, like, part human, part VFX things, and I thought that was, again, it's off 2014. I thought that was done exceptionally well. But yeah, Alicia Vikander in the role of Ava. Collie, take us away in your thoughts of her.
Yeah, just to touch on the visual effects, it won the Oscar for the best visual effects on a budget, like a small percentage of the other nominees, like Revenant, Fury Road, and Force Awakens, which I prematurely talked about. But yeah, she's good. And I was watching a couple of, like, analysis about this, and she never. So Ava essentially seduces Caleb, and in Vikander's performance, it's never really like a sexual seduction. It's all her humanness and her feelings and her thoughts, and obviously he clicks with her, like, facially, because, like we were saying before, it was developed on his preferences when it comes to women, but it was never kind of seedy or anything like that. They just connected on this human level, and that's when she gets him fully on board with, oh, Nathan's actually going to just kill me, and you need to help me, kind of thing. So her subtle seduction of Caleb's fantastic. I think Vikander's great in it. Very soft, just soft and gentle, I would say, is two kind of words to use as Ava. But then, like, the performance from her, like, throughout the film's great, but then the last X amount of minutes when she kills Nathan and then locks Caleb and just walks away, and the kind of subtle smile that she's got on her face, that she's satisfied that she's away to get to go to this cross section and watch people, I think was really, really good. It was very, like, understated, as bigger than life Nathan was. Ava was kind of juxtapositioned against that with how subtle she was and how low stated the performance was from Vikander. So I thought it was great. I thought the interactions with her and with Caleb were fascinating. The way that they were shot through the kind of the mirror of the glass, and even though she's kind of the trap subject, she's in this. This is getting a bit more into it than rather than just for candor, but she's in a big room and he's in the small cage when they're talking, or small kind of containment when she's talking. So all that kind of dynamics very interesting, and that speaks obviously more to Garland's what he's wanting to portray during the film about who's in charge and who's not in charge and stuff. So yeah, Vikander does exactly what she needed to, and a bit more, I would say. I think it was a real standout, and I think this was the first thing I might have seen her in without double checking her filmography. But yeah, I thought she was outstanding.
Good stuff, Todd.
Yeah, like I've just had a look through, and it's the hat trick for me because it's an introduction as well. For I'd never seen her anything before. She was fantastic, and I think there's the temptation, and I know Garland probably wouldn't let this happen, and I know that she's a better actress than this to let it happen. But there'd be a temptation to make it robotic in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, we're just like before we were recording, I was saying about like how you can tell when AI is AI because it always has that weird sort of tinge to it. And I think she has that tinge. I think there's something that isn't human about her, despite the fact that, you know, she's presented as a human and she's talking in a way. But there's always something, and it's all in a performance. It's not in the writing. It's all in a performance. I think it's a tone of voice and how stilted some of the sentences that she uses are, like how she ends a sentence. She doesn't and ah. She doesn't like that. She doesn't lose track of sentences. Do you know what I mean? There is that sort of that AI about her. And like I say, I think subtle is the word. She's really subtle in quite a lot. I love though when she's talking about being outside and what it's like to be outside when she's talking to Caleb. I thought that was phenomenal. Because then you start to question: is she actually sent? And I know we'll get onto it. Is she sentient? Are these her thoughts, or is this just something that has been programmed into her? And again, yes, it was down to the writing ever so slightly, but that's her performance. That's her performance that's pulling that out. So yeah. Massey, sorry, I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's tough to kind of like piggyback on what you guys have been saying. I think she's absolutely wonderful. That's a bit, to be fair.
Mm-hmm. You got to start kicking these to yourself first, Massey, because me and Todd say everything, and then you're just like,
that's fine. I love listening to you guys. So when it comes to talking about farts, though, I've got that. Don't worry. Yeah, so I mean, let's kind of move on to the ending then. Obviously, we kind of figure out that maybe it's not being quite as black and white as Caleb thought it was. Todd, what were your thoughts on the kind of like twisty ending that we had, and obviously the final kind of shots of Ava being assimilated into humanity?
I never saw it coming, and I think that's the mark of it. And maybe that's just me being a bit dim. I don't know, but like I always saw it as this kind of it would finish. I was always ready for it to finish in the house with an answer, because it was script heavy and because it was dialogue heavy. I thought that was going to be the end, and I thought it was going to be a case of congratulations, you've passed the test or whatever, and yes, she's do you know what I mean? I thought there was always going to be like a sort of a level-headed ending, and because this is of it now, I sort of expect it from Garland that there's going to be something out of pocket ever so slightly, and we'll talk about them as we go, but because this was the first thing I'd seen of him, I was just like, yeah, this is good. I'm here for it just to be a talking ending. For her to get out, I think said more about her character than the rest of the film, because then it's a kind of, she has to survive on her own, she has to be out there, she has to be sentient. There's no sort of there's nobody programming her now. The two people who know about her are dead and left behind. I thought it was fantastic, and I think the sort of the games that Oscar Isaac was playing with Domhnall Gleeson, I thought was amazing as well. Again, it just kind of it was that breakdown, that mental breakdown throughout with Domhnall Gleeson, testing, is he a machine, is he a robot? I thought that was brilliant as well. Really unexpected, but perfectly pitched at. Now I know that. Now that's the ending. I'd have been disappointed if it had been anything else. Go on, Massey. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I didn't see it coming. Again, having watched it beforehand when I was a young whippersnapper, I couldn't really remember kind of where it goes and stuff. So watching it again, I didn't click that that's kind of what was really going to happen. I thought the fact that basically the true sort of Turing test was essentially her manipulation of Caleb. But obviously she passed with sort of flying colours, which is such an interesting way to take things. It could have been a sort of happy ending with Caleb and Ava making it in the world. Then she at least had somebody to help her through what could be a big sort of change, a step into the big wide world. But no, for the bravery to have her be the lone sort of survivor of what happened, I thought was a really interesting take. And again, had I think everyone guessed until the end, you didn't know that she was going to be the one that kind of wins this whole sort of thing. So yeah, I thought it was a wonderful like tonally correct ending as well. I think it fit exactly what the whole movie was saying and what it was trying to do. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. Collie?
Yeah. So I'm away to ask in a second, but yeah, one of the quotes that I thought was really good was Caleb was asking him what the real test was. And Nathan says, Ava's a rat in a maze, and I gave her one way out. To escape, she'd have to use self-awareness, imagination, manipulation, sexuality, empathy, and she did. Now, if that isn't true AI, what the fuck is? So, we don't have to go too deep into it because that's not what the podcast is about, but like, do you both think that she's conscious? Like, she is self-developing conscious AI?
I feel like she has to be. Like, that's the way I took it. Like she passed the Turing test, or the test that felt like it was a Turing test. So yeah, I feel like she has to be.
Yeah, I think it's at that high level, that high of a level that, but then the problem is, and it's not a problem, it's why the film's great, because then you start to question, well, what is sentience itself? Like, we're not artificial intelligence, but we're a developed intelligence. We have to develop those skills. What?
Some are.
Some of us fascinated about farts still.
That's the laugh. Yeah, and so I think it opens more questions than the one that you've just posed, if that makes sense. Like, as in, I think it's the right question to ask, because then it opens up a massive kind of worms that then we'd be on for hours. What do you reckon, Collie? What's your sort of take on it?
So, like, when I first seen it, I was just like, of the thinking, well, obviously she's conscious. She's planned this whole thing out. She's escaped. She's away to do whatever she wants to do. But then it's the fact that she aims to go to that cross section, and when Caleb and Nathan are talking about it before, it's like a program. A program is to analyze and watch people, and Ava says that earlier on in the film. She's like, I just want to go and watch people, which is kind of like what Google and the mobile phone manufacturers that Nathan says that he's been hacking the phones, but if he was to be exposed for that, then all the mobile phone companies would have to admit that they did it. So if it's all about data collecting and stuff like that, that's what she's away to do. And her programming has basically said you have to do anything that you can to go and analyze things and take in all this data. So is that just her programming that's been like, right, I need to get out of here, this is the way that I'll do it, just to get to the cross section and analyze people and take in all that data? Or is that her choice to then go and do that? Like, I don't know. I don't know what I think, but I was of the thinking when I first watched it, like, maybe obliviously, I was just like, well, obviously, like, if she's planned all this out, she's escaped, she smiled, which is kind of obviously a bit more than programming. Obviously, there's some sort of sentience there or intelligence there, but then it's like, well, if that's all she goes to do, all she wants to go and do, that's very computer and program driven as well. So I don't know. It's what's good about this film, though, I think, is that it can be, there's no clear cut, like I think you said it, Massey, like black and white way of this is what Ava is and this is, what happens and stuff like that. It's kind of open to interpretation. And I deliberately didn't go and look into what like Garland has maybe came out and said what he thought or what he deliberately like what he wrote it like and all that kind of stuff. And you could even go back to the Pollock painting. Sorry to go all the way back to the Pollock painting. Pollock's kind of style was that he would like turn off his consciousness or some shit like that. Like, and it was just a subconscious that was just like painting all over the place. Whereas Ava's art is very deliberate and dots and lines and all that kind of stuff. So is that her deliberately hiding her consciousness by doing that, or is that all she can do? And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's why I think all three of us and a lot of other people really enjoy this film. Is it's not clear cut. The twist is class. It's not what you expected. Like, I think it's the full package. And spoiler alert, this for me is like peak Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to touch on in the film? I think we've kind of covered quite a lot there, haven't we? Asked questions that maybe even the listeners and viewers of our podcast may not be able to answer, but you know, if they can answer that, please let us know in the comments below or on Twitter at LCD_pod. Yeah, so anything else you guys want to talk about with Ex Machina? I think.
Oh, fine to rate it.
Perfect. Okay.
Just quickly, sorry, you can rent the cabins in Norway that they filmed in, and they are incredible. Like they're they're in the middle of the fjords in Norway. They're amazing. Sorry, it's just something that they are. Well, they're not cheap.
Okay.
I haven't looked in a few years, but they're not cheap. But like they're gorgeous. It's like I just think it's fascinating that it looks like a set. It looks like something that's just been like dressed, but these cabins are. Obviously they'll have added bits and pieces in, but they're the real deal that you can go and stay in.
Are they the same inside though? Or are they the same with all the locked doors and stuff like that? Like,
some of the cabins. Alicia Vikander is there to say hello. No, like the glass panel and stuff is the same inside. So it's like obviously like they've added, like I said, they've added bits and pieces, and I don't think that like the interrogation room, whatever you want to call it, that's not a real thing. But like as in the corridors and stuff look.
Yeah, and the bedroom's got no windows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. They're incredible.
Wow.
Sorry, just on that subject, have you seen recently that I can't remember what it is? Is it Airbnb? Or it's some company like that lets you stay and there's like loads of different like film sets now that they've created. Is it you can stay? There's something from Despicable Me, I'm sure I've seen.
They did the Shrek Swamp, didn't they?
They did the Shrek Swamp in Scotland and stuff like that. But I don't think that was them though.
Oh, was it?
I think that was somebody who did that and then put it up on Airbnb. But I think there's ones that they're making.
Is there not like
they've paid for or something like that?
I think they've done one for the X-Men, haven't they?
They've done one for the X-Men Mansion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No way.
So,
yeah. So sorry, just on that point about Airbnb or renting it or whatever. That's cool though. Like it's the set of the film's beautiful, stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you never know when the podcast has kicked off, but you never know, people might.
If the Airbnb wants to sponsor.
Yeah. We can go there and do a live episode from the Ex Machina house.
Bruce Gaff in Despicable Me.
Yeah. Well, Todd does look like a minion, so.
What's that even mean?
Where's that come from? Fucking hell.
Well.
You look like Shrek, Massey, so you know what I'm saying? Like, you sound like him as well.
Go, my swamp. Right. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to more serious topics. Not talk about farts stuff anymore. Right, ratings for Letterboxd. I'll kick off. I actually give it 4.5. It's like touching 5-star, but 4.5 for me. Todd?
Yeah, 5-star for me.
And Collie?
5-star for me as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably as close to 5 stars as a 4.5 can get for me. So I'm sure with extra watches it will get there. Okay, so moving on to the next film and the final film in this part of the episode, we are going on to Annihilation. So a biologist signs up for a dangerous secret expedition into a mysterious zone where the laws of nature do not apply. Right, so Todd, first thoughts on Annihilation?
I think I love it as like a hard sci-fi film. Jesus Christ! I think it was done badly by not going to the cinema. It wasn't released at the cinema, was it? It was a straight to Netflix job. And the first time I watched it, I fell asleep. not because of the film. And then I woke up like towards the end and saw Natalie Portman sort of dancing with this shining creature, and the look on JP, my wife's face, just being like, she was like, that was fucking shit. Hated it. So it took me a little while to kind of come back around and watch it. And I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think the performances are fantastic. I think it, again, asks so many questions about reality and what it is to be human. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Collie?
I think this film's okay. I kind of briefly discussed it with you before, Massey, but there's a couple of films that we're going to be discussing, like, that I've probably marked maybe half a star too high, I think, on subsequent rewatches of it. I remember watching it at the time, and our good friends in the Skip to the End podcast raved about it, and I was like, maybe I just didn't get it. And that might still be the case, but I remember watching it a couple of times then, and then I'd not watched it since, until we decided to do Garland on for this. So my feelings haven't really changed on it. I think, like, performance-wise, it's great. The visual effects look really good. There's some sort of waxiness or something to the way that it's shot, though, that I didn't really like. And yeah, it's a bit messy for me. It's again, I quite like, what did you call it? Hard sci-fi? Is that like the same as like elevated horror kind of vibe? Like, I know what you mean, though. Like, I don't mind that as such, but for me, this is kind of Garland trying a bit too hard, maybe, perhaps. I know this is based on a book, so not too much is of his original thinking, but yeah, maybe just one of those that's just not for me.
It's fair enough. I'm in the same camp as Todd. I love it. I think it's amazing. I remember watching it. This is actually the third time I watched it. I watched it when it first came out, and exact same thoughts to yourself, Todd. Was like, I really wish I had a cinema release. Like, it deserves it. Just the way it looks, the score as well, and yeah, the hard sci-fi. I call it like high concept sci-fi, but same sort of thing. I think. I think it's an absolutely wonderful film. I can understand why some people wouldn't like it, and I completely understand your thoughts, Collie. I do think a lot of it is kind of style over substance, but I think that is fine for me in this. I think the style is so engrossing that I enjoy it and love it that much. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to hear your thoughts, Collie, because obviously I'm just going to be waxing lyrical about it. But yeah, I think it's a truly wonderful film. So there obviously is like, well, Oscar Isaac, of course, is we kind of spoke about him being in it. He's not in it for
a good bit of trivia about him.
Oh, do you? Right, let's hear it, Collie.
He was filming The Force Awakens at the same time as this.
Really?
Yeah, he had the same trailer for both.
Wowzers!
I don't believe anything else I said earlier about him. This is the true one.
Absolutely. Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you so much for letting us know that. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously back. He's in it for the best part of like maybe 15-20 minutes, if that. But it's kind of it all kicks off around him and the mission that he was on. So obviously, Natalie Portman is the sort of like the main sort of player in this film. Thoughts on her performance? Then Collie, let's see what your thoughts were on how she did.
I thought she was good. Like, I like Natalie Portman. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just don't think she's the most engaging of character actresses, I could say. So, like Lena was she was interesting enough. She was good to pull the story along, but I don't think she was any more standout performance wise, at least from Portman, than Jennifer Jason Leigh or any of the other ladies in the crew. To be honest, I think everyone was like good, but not great. I don't think Portman was like stand out in this for me. I think she was just perfectly serviceable.
Todd?
Yeah, so I love the sort of the confusion that she creates, both like with the story, but with the performance and stuff. I don't think it's a big character performance. I don't think it's certainly not a best performance, but I think that's kind of testament to how good Natalie Portman is. Like, she, regardless of what she's in, she brings her best to every yeah, I'll say everything, and then I'll end up looking through her IMDb and being like, oh, actually, hang on a minute. But no, I thought she was excellent. I thought that kind of dynamic of her coming into this team as well, and sort of being she's already fragile, she's already sort of broken, and then she has to integrate herself into this team of quite different characters, especially like you say with Jennifer Jason Leigh's character taking the lead and stuff. I thought it was really good. But yeah, I thought she was excellent, and I think it's kind of it's a difficult one to pin down because she's kind of doing the same thing right the way through the film. I don't think there's a mass amount of we see her in this position at the beginning where she's being interrogated, and then that's the character that we have throughout. I thought she did a cracking job though with that. Massey?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is where like Ex Machina is a completely different film, and it's very character driven. I think this one is a lot more like the world. It's like world driven, and the intricacies for the actual like past the Shimmer. And I suppose actually even outside the Shimmer as well. The performances for me weren't like anything that stood out as such. Like for me, it was more like the actual the VFX and the cinematography and stuff like that as well. That was more stronger. But I think Natalie Portman did a fine job. I think all of them did I say all of them. Sorry, all the women that took part did a fine job. And especially when they sort of descend into a bit more madness after they're in the Shimmer. I thought they all did really well. But for me, it was like the main things were the sort of the VFX, the cinematography stuff as well. On the back of that as well, I think this, I'm kind of pushing a bit forward, but like the score in that and the choice of some of the songs and stuff that were used as well for me was a really strong point. I don't know if you guys sort of like noticed this, but like right at the start, when Oscar Isaac appears at like the bottom of the stairs and stuff, the song, the lyrics actually kind of like sort of match up to what's happening. So the song says, I can't remember what song it is, but it's like a Belle and Sebastian or like what's it called? The band or something like that. I can't remember who it is that sings it, but it says hello, and Oscar Isaac just pops into the frame, and then the next line of the song is they're one person, they're two alone, three together, one for each other. Obviously, it's kind of like playing on the fact there's like mirrors and part of the theme is the whole sort of like almost like copies and that sort of thing. So that was just something I picked up this time watching it. Having known obviously kind of where the story goes and stuff. So things like that I think were more impressive than the kind of like the acting sort of performance and stuff as well. In terms of obviously, well, as I say, for me the more important thing was the VFX and stuff. What was your thoughts, Todd, on that kind of way of the film as opposed to anything else?
So the Shimmer, the person that like the other version of Natalie Portman that like the kind of like dance with, I suppose, that took me out of it a little bit, and I think that's why it was sort of a 4.5. You go so strong with Ex Machina, with that sort of the see-through body of Ava, and then you go to this and it's like it felt tacky. But apart from that bit, that's not just why it was 4.5. But apart from that bit, I thought the people made of the flowers and like kind of that world that they've created was fascinating. Like I genuinely, again, I didn't realize it was a novel, and I'm chuffed, and I'm gonna have a look and see if I can get it ordered.
It's a trilogy, I think it's a trilogy. This is the first one in the trilogy. Yeah.
I'll get the first one ordered and give it a go because I'd love to sort of delve further into the world. The bit for me, and I'm pleased you've come to me first, just because like I can go on over this, is the bear. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, the whole scene is harrowing, the noises it makes, but the way that it looks, if you just look at the concept art for it and like the actual, because obviously we only get like flashes of it and we only get it coming into the shot from like the side of it. To create creatures like that where evolution sort of taken such a weird path and almost trying things out is the way that I would describe it. Like, that blew me away. That was amazing, and I'm obsessed with that bear. And I know, like, we saw the crocodile and stuff. I just wish there was more of that, because it was so effective. It was so well done, and I think, like you say, the visual side of it was amazing. Even the colours, the use of the flowers, because you've got this sort of this harrowing setting, and, like, obviously I know we'll come to a couple more people in it. Everybody's battling with something. Nobody's particularly sort of having a good time here. We're all looking for the, what's gone wrong in this beautiful place that people want to sort of, like, looks like something that you'd, not me personally, I've not been known to frolic, but it's something that, like, people could frolic through. I don't think I've ever used that word before, and I don't think I'll ever use it again. But yes, it looks like something that you would frolic through. It's a gorgeous film. Collie?
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree and say that it's not a gorgeous looking film. Like I say, it's just like, certainly the kind of the flashbacks to her and Oscar Isaac and that kind of interactions and stuff. I don't know if we'll get onto this with Men a little bit, because there's certain ways that it's filmed to show that it's a flashback, like through lighting and that. But I don't know, there was just like a waxiness to some of the faces of some of the the actors and that, and I don't know what it was. It looked not tacky, I wouldn't say, but like just weird. It just looked very like ethereal, but not in like a good way. I don't really know how to word it, but it just didn't really. I didn't really like the look of the film in general, but the creations within the shimmer and that I thought were great. There was one particular shot which I think is pretty class from the inside of the crocodiles. Is that a crocodile or an alligator?
Yeah.
One of the two. Inside its mouth, and then she lets it. She's like, it's getting really heavy. Is it Tessa Thompson that says that? I think. Or maybe Gina Rodriguez.
I think it is.
Yeah, and then she drops it, and then it closes and it cuts to the next shot. I thought that was pretty cool, just from a kind of novelty aspect. But yeah, the one shot that I thought was really cool was when she's Natalie Portman staring into the portally thing near the end, and it's all like folding in on itself, and there's like the big yellows. I thought that was class. I thought that was really well done. I don't think any of the CGI or that, or the effects rather, was bad per se. I wasn't really invested in the story or anything like that. I didn't find it very engaging. I thought the bit with the snake kind of intestine bit inside of the guy, I thought that was a pretty cool effect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The way that was shot is, obviously they were just watching it as like the home video version of it, but the way that was shot, but it was funny, like Oscar Isaac like turns to the camera at one point, he's like, what the hell's going on? It just, that made me laugh as well. I can't remember what he says, but yeah, like as much as I wasn't like that into the film in general, I can't take away anything from the effects side of things. I thought it was a great looking film.
So, see, when you say about the sort of like waxy stuff, or the way it sort of looked, was that like when they were in the shimmer, or when they're out the shimmer?
More so out the shimmer,
Okay.
like when she's in the interview room, when she's being spoken to by Benedict Wong and all the science team are on like the other side of the glass, and I don't know. It was just, I'm trying to, like, it just didn't look normal or so. I don't even know what it is to word it, but I don't know if Rob Hardy's the cinematographer for all of them, right? It's the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. So I don't know if he was just trying something different with this, but it just didn't look the way that a lot of films look, I guess, which isn't a bad thing. I didn't really vibe with it.
I mean, I suppose it could have been more like, I don't know if they were trying to say that how the world looked different for her coming back, having changed, her DNA's been kind of like
quite possibly.
Yeah, potentially. That's all I'm thinking for that. But yeah, because obviously inside the shimmer, like the sort of saturation stuff is like dialed up like to the max. Like,
the colors are like popping in that. Like, yeah, definitely, and that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I watched this. I actually watched this at one speed.
Wow.
Would you believe? I watched this one at one speed because I watched it on the TV down the stairs, like 4K TV, HDR, all that kind of stuff, and it looked amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, especially inside the shimmer.
Yeah.
But maybe because it was on a big TV and in high def and that, like, that's what maybe the non-shimmer bit looked a bit weird. I don't know, but yeah, like the shimmer especially looked class.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where like the fact that it didn't get a cinema release is kind of maybe what's a bit of its downfall. In that, like,
Potentially, I think I would feel the same about the story in that though. Like, TVs nowadays, like at home and that, obviously it's not the cinematic feel, but like it looked really good still. Like it would have been cool to see in the cinema at the time, but I'm not heartbroken about it.
It's fair enough. Yeah, one of the things I did want to touch on was the score, especially like when she's obviously the dancing part as well, but like the sort of like deeper kind of, it's almost like the Inception bois, isn't it? It's like there's like a kind of underlying sort of like dark kind of that I think is so effective and makes it creepier parts creepy or creepier, sorry.
Yeah, it's very unsettling. I would definitely agree with that. Like it's very foreboding. Yeah,
absolutely. I thought that was like a really interesting part of it, especially when coupled with the VFX and stuff and what was going on. I thought that was a really interesting choice that it had. Todd, as someone else who enjoyed the film, what do you think about like the score? Was that something like jumped out to you, or?
Yeah, it's funny you say about the Inception like bongs, because that sort of that rise and noise, I didn't know at first. Obviously, it's part of the score. Like I didn't know whether that was sort of something that they could hear. It felt like it was something otherworldly, and it just felt as if it was a sort of a representation of the Shimmer. I don't know. I thought it was amazing. Like I couldn't describe the sound. If somebody said to me, "What is the noise that is made in Annihilation?" I couldn't describe it. I can hear it. I can hear it. No, absolutely not. I can. This happens every time.
One of these an episode. Do it, Todd.
Do it. Come on.
Yeah, there is. And what I've done is I've started going, no. Yeah,
you won't live long on this podcast if you keep saying that.
I know my place. I can hear it really loudly and really clearly. I thought it was amazing. But like you say, it's that rumbling right the way through, even in the scenes. Because I thought Jennifer Jason Leigh was amazing. And when she's talking quite a bit, there is this sort of underlying, almost as if she's portrayed as the villain at times, and nobody's really the villain. Essentially, she has a job to do. She's a bit of a bastard about it, but like
a bit hard nosed, isn't she? She's like,
yeah, she's by the book, and you know, you can talk all day about whether she's right or wrong, but it works really well. And like I say, with her, she always has that kind of underlying score. Yeah, I thought it worked really well.
Good stuff. Try to think. Is there anything else we need to talk about with Annihilation?
Yeah, so I've got two things. The bit that took me out of the film the most, and it was quite near the end, is when it might be from the book, I never checked, but when she goes like, "Oh, it's not like us, it's unlike us," and then at the end she just goes Annihilation, and I'm like, I felt like Peter Griffin in that Family Guy meme. She said the name of the film. I was like, fuck's sake. Another question I've got for you because maybe you understand it a bit more or can explain it to me. The significance of the Ouroboros tattoo that Natalie Portman has, and a couple of people have. I don't know if you've even noticed this. She's got a tattoo like on her arm, like there, of a snake eating itself, which is Ouroboros, which is the sign of eternal life, as Gojira once put it. So maybe if you didn't pick this up, I can look up on my own. But there's I've got a note here. Several characters who directly interact, with the Shimmer have doubles that can be identified by this tattoo on their arm. So I think Natalie Portman's got it. One of the other lassies has maybe got it. And then there's a soldier that they come across that's got it on his arm as well. So it might be worth looking into. Because apart from it signifying that there were doubles or whatever, I don't know if that gives away at the end the one that's then speaking like to the scientists and stuff after the fact. Like I don't know if that kind of clarifies that she's a double, even though it's hinted at anyway. Because their conversation between her and Oscar Isaac at the end is it not like pretty much just like, are you the double, or am I the double, or are you the double, or is there not something like that at the end? They
kind of talk about like how you're changed or something, haven't they? Don't they?
Yes.
Like, are you Lena? And it's like, and they're thinking like, there's like, it's quite ambiguous, isn't it, as to
but I think that Ouroboros tattoo thing might be more on the nose, perhaps. I don't know. It's maybe worth looking into. I wasn't sure if either of you had noticed it, but I didn't want to ask prior to the podcast in case like you hadn't like whatever. I I wanted to leave that to obviously discuss here, but it's fine. I could go away and look at it.
Yeah, because I
myself,
think
but...
doesn't the tattoo comes in? Does it not come on after they've gone into Shimmer? Is that not?
Yes, yes. So that's what I'm saying. No,
Yeah.
I think it's like after she directly interacts with it or something. Was what I briefly read about it. So that's why she's got it on the outside, because she's a double, maybe, or something like that. I don't know.
The way that I interpret anyway her at the end is that she is the Lena that we know, but her DNA has been changed after having been in the Shimmer, in the same way that like that's what happens like the plants and stuff as well. So she's like she is her. She is the Lena that we started with, but she's maybe not quite human anymore, as we know as human.
I thought it was her. I thought it was the Shimmer. I thought it was the Shimmer that had left, and it was her that got.
No, because she blows it up with the incendiary.
I thought that was. Oh, I thought that was like the Shimmer killing her.
No, because it starts to change. It starts to change into her when it touches her.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
doesn't fully get there.
I thought there was maybe an off-screen kind of flipping of she became. I don't know.
No, that's
no.
Oscar Isaac has that. So the Oscar Isaac that dies is the original one, but then the Shimmer version is the one that left. Yeah.
I thought the same happened to her.
Yeah, no, that is
that like Lena. A definite no, or is that just like your interpretation of it?
I'm pretty sure it's definite because
it's definitely her that comes out. Yeah, blows up the Shimmer very.
But is it her because it's like, you know, the DNA having been changed? Like, is the bear still a bear because it's now like a bear with screamy voices, or
is a bear a Wookiee? Sorry.
Good question.
But you know what I mean? Is it still technically her when her DNA is changed to the point where she may have snakes inside her, like the guy that was found? Do you know what I mean? That sort of.
So you mean unconsciously, it's the Lena that we know?
Yes, but physically, is it still? It's like, is it not the whole ship thing? The ship of Theseus.
Theseus, yeah. So her decks are changing. Like, so the body that went in is still the body that came out, you know, on the outside. Her consciousness has come out, but slowly but surely she starts changing because of her interaction with the Shimmer.
Yeah.
And that's why when the eyes at the end,
the eye flickers, isn't it?
Have the Shimmer as well.
Yeah.
I need to watch this film again, and I only watched it like last week. It does. It's one of those that made me feel a bit thick, like as in not
now, so.
Yeah, not to the levels of like Primer or anything where it was just maths on maths.
Don't get me started on that.
Shite.
Yeah.
But it was. But it's still like it left some, and that's, you know, when I say about hard sci-fi, it's like where these rules are created, but not everything's explained, or like the rules go further than what is explained or that the characters know about. Like it just, and I think that's part of the fascination for me. Is like the questions that are asked about it. Sorry, just as we move forward. I know we briefly touched on Tessa Thompson. I think she's one of those actors who will like. I know she did like Men in Black International. I still haven't seen it. I don't know what it's like, but no. But in the Creed film, she's fantastic. There was a film. It's got like a couple of different names. But it's a drama that she was in called Crossing the Line from 2018. Worth watching. I just think she stood out through the film. But the other thing, I didn't realise until I watched What We Do in the Shadows that Benedict Wong's English. So like I've always been under the impression that he's American, and then in What We Do in the Shadows, he uses his full Sheffield sort of like
he's got a
thick
heavy
northern
accent.
Yeah. Well, so then in this, he's American. But every now and then, next time you watch it, that little bit of North English creeps out. And now I know that it, like, I didn't clock it the first couple of times I watched it, but after hearing him go, "Get up, you bastard," in What We Do in the Shadows, like, now you hear those little tinges of, like, I'm sure it's Sheffield he's from.
I'm not sure, but I think he actually, does he not go, Shimmer?
Fuck off. It's funny, I've seen Sunshine last week in the cinema, and Benedict Wong's in that, but he's like super skinny Benedict Wong. It's it was very. At first, I was like, "Is that Benedict Wong?" And I wasn't sure, and then yeah, it is. But he's like quite skinny.
He's some boy.
Yeah,
some boy.
yeah, he's some boy, he's some actor. I love him.
Okay, shall we move on to our ratings? And is there anything else you guys want to talk about with Annihilation?
Nope, fine with me.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, Collie, let's get to yourself first. Then, what did you rate it on Letterboxd? I
gave it 3.5. It could have easily been a 3, though.
Yeah. Fair enough. Todd?
Yeah, I gave it 4.5, and I don't think it'll move from there.
Yeah, I give it 4.5 as well. I think it's one of those that might move up for me, to be honest, if I keep watching it. But yeah, 4.5 as well. Okie doke. Well, we are at the end of part 1 of our Alex Garland episode. So, remember, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe. Let us know at the bottom what you think about the Dredd incendiary mix of sound as well. And of course, if you're listening on Spotify, follow us and let us know what you think of Mr. Garland's films. But guys, thank you so much for listening, watching. We love you all. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone.
See you in a bit. Thank you.